What should the New York Knicks do during this offseason? Let's get into this. After a wildly successful season for the New York Knicks, a little disappointing in the playoffs, but either way a very successful season, the Knicks now go into the offseason with a lot of questions on what they should do during this offseason and how they should build on what they already have. There's two pathways the Knicks could take, and then after that there's more pathways after the main two. But the main two is, first, they can continue to build on what they had and build around stars Julius Randle and RJ Barrett and other rookies they have and young guys, or they can completely sell out and maybe trade RJ and Julius or one of the two and other rookies on their team with young guys for absolute superstars in this league and try to do what the Brooklyn Nets did. Or they can do a third option, which would be a hybrid, and just sign a superstar in the offseason and keep the initial core that they have there going for them. Out of these three pathways, me personally, I think the hybrid option is definitely the best option. Even though you're not going to get multiple superstars, you're going to continue to keep your guys in RJ Barrett and Julius Randle, who could potentially be superstars going in the future, and also other guys in your team that could potentially be a lot better than they are right now. But you're going to be picking up one superstar, and if one superstar does come to the New York Knicks, I think they would become instant contenders, and that would bring a lot of role players that want to win a championship to your team, and that would help your team that way as well. This model is more of like the Golden State Warriors model, where we saw Kevin Durant just be added to the team that they already had. All those players were all homegrown players: Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green. They're all guys they drafted and turned into superstars. So of course, in a perfect scenario, I would love for the New York Knicks to add a guy, maybe like Kawhi Leonard. It's not that realistic, but just for the sake of the video, a guy like Kawhi Leonard to this New York Knicks team they already have going for them. But now let's talk about the other two case scenarios, either bringing in and completely selling out for superstars or continue with the young core they have. And let's talk about the positives and negatives of both case scenarios. So let's first start off with the young core and keeping them and continue to build off what they already have going for them. So of course their current main core is Julius Randle and RJ Barrett. They have other young guys around them like Obi Toppin, Emmanuel Quickley, Mitchell Robinson, but the main core is really RJ Barrett and Julius Randle at the moment. Now the real question is, if you want to continue to build through these guys, you got to make sure that you truly believe that these guys are going to be superstars going forward, or at the very least an all-star level talent, and then eventually you would add someone. So let's talk about Julius Randle first. So of course during this season we saw Julius Randle completely change the way he was and really turn into a high-level all-star at this point in his career. Let's first start off with Julius's best ability in the offensive end, and that's his mid-range jump shot. This season especially, we've seen this guy be so effective and so automatic with that pull-up mid-range jump shot, which is a pretty difficult shot by the way, but he became very efficient with it, as well as a post turnaround fadeaway, which is one of my favorite moves for a scorer in this league, as I mentioned in a lot of my videos. And also just a catch and shoot mid-range jump shot, or whenever he has that wide open mid-range jump shot, he's always pretty efficient and effective from it, and he's basically automatic this season. But something Julius was able to do this season that really opened up his game was his three-point shooting ability. In the past, he was shooting at the low 30 percentile, but this season he completely worked on his jump shot during the offseason tremendously, and we saw all that hard work pay off during this season. He was shooting 41% from deep on a lot of attempts. It wasn't like he was only taking one attempt per game or whatever. He was taking a lot of shots, and he was doing it in a multitude of ways. He was able to do it on the catch and shoot three-point jump shots, which he was very effective at. He was also able to create for himself and do step back three-point shots, because he also has very good handles for a power forward. He just became lethal from the three-point range, and that really opened up everything else in his game. And another thing, as I mentioned before, this is something that Julius always had in his career, but that was the ability to get all the way to the basket and use that bulldozer finesse to run over people basically, and just finish with dunks and layups around the basket, which is something that he's always been able to do. The difference is he's been a lot more selective this season, and he hasn't been spinning into double teams or just running into the paint into double and triple teams and throwing up bad shots. But probably the biggest change for Julius Randle has been his passing and playmaking ability. We saw it throughout the entire season this season. He's just been finding his teammates very easily, getting them wide open three-point shots, wide open cuts going all the way to the basket for easy dunks or layups. He's just been making his teammates' lives so much easier, and whenever you have a player like that, especially your star player, it just provides winning. Teams that have superstars that are great passers and playmakers in this league and can really get their teammates wide open shots just win a lot more, of course, rather than superstars that don't do that. So of course that was a huge part of his game and a big reason why we saw this huge jump from Julius Randle this season. But of course there are still some concerns. That playoff matchup, I'm definitely not letting him off the hook for that. That's something that we need to see him go back to the playoffs and really improve. That was a terrible playoff performance and a very disappointing one, and that's something you have to keep in mind if you want to go this route and really build through Julius Randle Randle and RJ Barrett. But now let's talk about RJ Barrett. So coming into the NBA, RJ Barrett was known as a guy who was very good getting to the basket. He had a lot of crafty layups around the basket. He could also use his athleticism to dunk over you. He was just a pure slasher in the NBA, or when he would get to the NBA. But this season, what really made him different is he was able to actually hit those three-point shots, which really opened up his game as well. The reason both RJ Barrett and Julius Randle didn't work great in their first season together was RJ Barrett wasn't able to hit threes whatsoever, but Julius Randle wasn't able to hit threes whatsoever either. But this season, the difference is they can both hit threes now. Julius Randle can obviously create for himself and hit threes, but the thing with RJ Barrett that he really added, he was also shooting over 40% from deep, and he was great in those catch and shoot three-point shots. One thing he really has to improve going forward is being able to create for himself at that three-point range, but it's a great start to see that he's able to hit catch and shoot three-point jump shots right now, and it's a good stepping stone to what he could potentially be in the future, so it's a great thing to see. Also, another thing that he struggled with in his first season and his rookie season was his free throw shooting, and we saw in his next season, which was this season, he definitely improved on that a ton. He was shooting over 70% this season, which is pretty good, and something that was a huge flaw in his game really kind of got fixed up. So it's really good to see from a guy like RJ Barrett, especially going from rookie season to second season, improving in so many areas. That's something great to see going forward, and that's exactly what you want to see when you're talking about a guy who could potentially be your cornerstone piece. So I definitely like RJ Barrett a ton to be a cornerstone piece for the New York Knicks going forward. And then when you talk about other guys like Obi Toppin, Emmanuel Quickley, Mitchell Robinson, those are all other guys that are really good and definitely have a great future going forward, but none of those guys are really going to be superstars most likely. But those are definitely guys you want to keep around and could be off the bench or even decent level starters at some point in their careers. For Mitchell Robinson, he's already a very good level starting center in the league, and he also gained a ton of muscle during the offseason, so that's someone I'm very excited to see going forward. Emmanuel Quickley obviously was amazing in his rookie season. Nobody expected him to be that good. I could definitely see him being a really good six-man option for the Knicks for years to come. And also for Obi Toppin, I know he didn't have a great rookie season, but that's somebody I'm pretty excited about going into the end of the season and in the playoffs, how he was able to play. I think Obi Toppin definitely has a pretty good future as well. And overall, I definitely think this path of building around RJ Barrett and Julius Randle definitely has a lot of positives to it, and it definitely could be the way the Knicks go, and maybe it's the right move to make. But there are definitely a few negatives with it as well, because if you're going to do this, you have to make sure both Julius Randle and RJ Barrett are at the very least going to be all-stars, and for Julius Randle or RJ Barrett, at least one of them, you would expect them to be at least a superstar going forward in their careers. And if they're not going to be a superstar going forward in their careers, and you don't end up picking anybody else in free agency or drafting someone that would be, then you're really going to be in that mediocrity range of in the playoffs of 4 to 6 basically every single year with no chance at actually winning the championship, and that's exactly where you don't want to be. But there's definitely some positives, and that's something that the front office really needs to sit down and figure out if RJ Barrett and Julius Randle they believe will be superstars going forward. But now let's talk about the superstar route that the Knicks can go. Now, of course, when you talk about the superstar route, the two guys that come into your head are both Damian Lillard and Kawhi Leonard, who have been attached to the New York Knicks. So of course the risk with this is if you trade RJ Barrett and Julius Randle, which you're probably going to have to do, at the very least trade one of them when you're getting both of these guys, is you run the risk of one of those guys becoming a superstar, and they're also very young in their career. So if they do become a superstar, you would expect that they would only get better year after year, and they have a ton of years left in their careers. But of course a positive is you would be getting superstars like Damian Lillard and Kawhi Leonard. I'm not saying this is even possible, I'm just saying this is a potential route they could be taking. So of course a positive is you're getting two superstars, and that instantly puts you in championship contention, and you most likely would probably be the favorites with both Damian Lillard and Kawhi Leonard on your team, or at least a top two team. The negative, I guess, would be they're both not really old, I would say, but they're a lot older than Julius Randle and RJ Barrett, so you're instantly in win now mode, and that puts a ton of pressure on you, also considering you play in New York for the Knicks. So if they were to get a superstar, whoever it is, if it's Lillard, Kawhi, or whoever it is, they would be put under a lot of pressure to absolutely win now. You have to. You already traded your future for these guys, so you have to win an NBA championship, or else it's a failure. A perfect example is the Brooklyn Nets. You look at the Brooklyn Nets, they completely sold their future to get superstars, and now they have KD, Kyrie, and James Harden, which is absolutely amazing. But at this point, you definitely can't say the Brooklyn Nets are a success because they never won an NBA championship at this point. And if they never win an NBA championship with these three guys, it would always be known as a failure. So of course there's positives and negatives to each path the Knicks could potentially take, and I think at this point the Knicks are in a great spot to do either one and probably have a lot of success with either one that they pick. But at this point, if it were up to me, of course I would pick the third option, which would be the hybrid, where you keep your current guys that you have right now in the current core of Julius Randle, RJ Barrett, all the other rookies and young guys that they have, but you also add a superstar in free agency. That's probably would be my choice of if I can have a choice of what the Knicks should do. But I think either way they pick, I think there's definitely a lot of positives to it, and they have a great future ahead of them. But anyways, let me know what you guys think in the comments comments. Do you think the Knicks should go all out and try to get a superstar, or superstars plural, on this team? Or do you think the New York Knicks should continue to build with the core they have? Or do you think they should do a third option in a hybrid and keep their current core and bring in one superstar in free agency if possible? But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and if you did enjoy, please leave a like and subscribe and hit that post notification bell. It really helps me out a lot. Until the next time, peace out, guys.